So, if we're talking about general trinomials, what this means is they're not perfect squares. So, there are a lot of different methods for organizing ourselves, but they all work off the same principle. And the principle that they work off of is a product sum. So what we're looking for are two numbers that when we multiply are going to give us AC, but when we add them are going to give us B. So if we are looking at ax squared plus bx plus c, this is the type of relationship that we're looking for. We're looking for this perfect square. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually look at one example, but we're going to use each of these different methods on that one example. So we're actually going to do the one example 4 times. But this is just so that we see all the methods are the same. Okay. Let's move on to AC and grouping. So here is what how we're going to organize ourselves to start off with. I'm bringing this -10 and this 6 together, and I'm going to write them as a product. And this is specifically negative 60x squared. Now, I'm concerned primarily with this negative 60 part, because what I need is I need this negative 60 to be written as two things that multiply to give me, well, two things that multiply to give me this negative 60, but add to give me this negative 11. So let's see if we can't find these two values. Let's see, negative 15 and a positive 4. That would work, right? So negative 15 times 4 is negative 60. Okay. So now we're going to rewrite our original statement. And we're just bringing this first term down. And we're bringing this last term down. So we have this type of setup. Now, let's look at this. We're going to group these terms. So we're going to start off by looking at these first two terms and asking ourselves, what is their greatest common factor? Well, I can tell that both numbers are divisible by 3 because 6 and 15 are divisible by 3, and both terms are divisible by x because both terms have an x. So now, what is 6x squared divided by 3x? That would be 2x. And what is negative 15x divided by 3x? That would be minus 5. We're going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to write a plus in between because we can. What's the greatest common factor between 4 and 10? Well, they're both even, meaning they're both divisible by 2. And that is indeed the greatest common factor. So what is 4x divided by 2? Well, that would be 2x. What is negative 10 divided by 2. That would be negative 5. And this is the beautiful part of this formation. This value is the exact same as that value, which means we can factor them out because they are the greatest common factor between this term and this term. And when we do that, we have 2x minus 5 times 3x plus 2. Okay. That is the AC and grouping. So another way of organizing to figure out what these two numbers are, you might see some people put something like this, and in this form they would write AC here and they would write B here. So our AC would be negative 60, our B would be negative 11, and then we would have negative 15 times 4. Those two numbers multiplied give me 60, but those two terms added together give me 11, negative 11. So how you choose to set up that first bit to try to figure out what works is up to you. You have actually seen me in the past just go, I need two numbers, m plus n, that equal negative 11, and those same two numbers must multiply to give me negative 60. And then I would factor from here as negative 15, positive 4. Okay, moving on to the second bit, which is the lazy AC method. Okay. The lazy AC method starts off like this. We go, let's just put two parentheses here, and let's put 6x in both of them. Okay. Now we're going to actually do the AC part. So m plus m must equal negative 11. M times n must equal negative 60. This is, of course, our negative 15 and our positive 4. So I'm going to write minus 15 plus 4. Okay, this is definitely, those two things multiplied together definitely do not equal what we want. However, what is the greatest common factor of 6 and 15? So the greatest common factor of 6 and 15 is 3. What is the greatest common factor of 6 and 4? That would be 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this first set of parentheses. I'm going to divide each of these numbers by 3. So that would be 6 divided by 3 times x minus 15 divided by 3. But 6 divided by 3 is just 2x, and 15 divided by 3 is just 5. Over here, I'm going to look at these two, and I'm going to divide 6 by 2, and I am going to divide 4 by 2. And what I get, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. And if you recognize that, that is exactly what we had as our factors in the previous one. So this is a different way of organizing yourself, but it gives you the same result. let's move on to our third method, which is the slide and divide. Now this one we have actually looked at before, but we're going to go ahead and look at it again. So the slide and divide works by first sliding this 6 over there. So we would rewrite our entire problem as x squared minus 11x minus 60. Then we recognize that the two numbers that that add to give us negative 11 but multiply to give us negative 60 are indeed negative 15 and positive 4. So we would then write this as x minus 15, x plus 4. Now, that is not the final answer, because all we've done so far is the slide part. Now we have to do the divide part. And what we do with the divide part is we just take this first term and write it over what we slid. And we do that in both situations. So, like this. Now, 15/6 divides or simplifies into 5 halves, and 4/6 simplifies into 2/3. And then to get our final answer written, we're just going to move our denominators in front of our variables. So 2x minus 5, 3x plus 2. And we have one more method that we're going to look at, which again is a method that we have talked about before. But this is using the box method. And this is the method that I honestly have used the most in my mathematical career because it makes the most sense to my brain. That's the reason we're actually looking at a bunch of different ones, because we're trying to figure out what makes sense to our brains. We start off like we have with so many. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give us negative 11, and those same two numbers the two numbers add to give us negative 11, and they multiply to give us negative 60. And we know that this is negative 15 and a positive 4. Okay. Now, with the box method, we are quite literally going to put everything into a box. And we're going to put them into a box in this order. First term in the top left, last term in the bottom right. Excuse me. And this, these remaining two, we can put these two in with an x in any order. I'm just going to do minus 15x and 4x. Okay. Now we look at the top two terms and we ask ourselves, what is the greatest common factor? Well, the greatest common factor of 6x squared and 4x is 2x. I look at the bottom two, negative 15x, negative 10. What is the greatest common factor between those two? Well, that would be a 5. But because we have a negative right beside this 5, we're actually going to make that into a negative 5. What do the left two have in common? Well, 6x squared and negative 15x, the greatest common factor between them is 3x. And what is the greatest common factor between 4x and negative 10? Well, that is going to be 2. So what do we have? We have 2x minus 5, and we have 3x plus 2. 4 different methods for identifying our, for factoring our trinomial, for organizing our work. That is it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.